Today I'm pruning a white pomegranate, and it's in a tree form, so it's not a bush form like they generally grow, and it's in a pot. And this is for zone 9A, and this is considered high desert area, so we're in Las Vegas area. So I'm going to go ahead and come closer for the pruning. So I'm looking for branches that cross, that look like they're damaged. And it's February 15th, so it's a good time to do any kind of pruning because the leaves are not out yet. And so the tree is not putting in energy into areas I'm going to be cutting off. So that's why you want to prune early. If you're pruning in the summertime, a lot of times you're pruning to keep a plant a certain size or shape. So now with it being early spring, or it's still considered winter, I guess, this is the best time to do that. So this branch here, it goes almost straight up. It does rub against this one, so we get a lot of wind. So what we want to do is get rid of branches that are going to rub and move other branches, because that can knock buds off. So that's one, and that opens it up, and I don't need to worry. This one, it looks like this one is broken, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm not going to cut it all the way off. I'm just going to cut it, because if you can see, there's like little tiny buds, and these are for leaves. And so basically I'm making sure that the branches, they don't cross. So if there's wind, they're going to be able to do just fine. So, and then over here I have some crossing going on. So let's see if I can get a good picture of this. So this one is going up over this way, and this one goes up this way and then comes towards me, as well as going over here. And if you can see, this is actually one of the original branches, and this looks like it has a little stem here in the middle and here. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to cut. If you can see, there's like a little bud on, oops, I can't see it through the shears. There's a little bud right here, so I'm going to cut right here where there's also another little set of buds, and I'm going to watch to see if this branches out and grows out this way, or towards the outer part. So I don't want things that cross. I want them to all have their own space. So I'm going to cut there. Okay. And then as we move down here, this one also is growing sideways where this comes out, and you can see at one point it did come out, but it decided to grow this side. So I'm actually going to cut here and then watch it. So there was a pomegranate was actually attached to this little spur, but every year they grow new places. They grow new spurs. So since it's in a pot, I'm not really pruning for production yet. If I was pruning for production, I would prune a lot of the side branches back, because of the tree needs new growth to put out fruit on. So let me go ahead and turn it. And you can see that there are more branches that are crossing. So it looks really messy. So basically by doing some pruning, we're cleaning up the look. So right here, let's see if we have it. Right here, this one branches off this way, this one branches off this way, and this is in the way of this. So instead of going back and cutting this branch all the way towards the trunk of the tree, I'm going to cut here. So that takes off a smaller piece, and it changes the direction of the growth for that. Now towards the end, there's also some crossing. So we have this little V branch here. So this side is going off over this side, this is over here. And you can tell by the white color of this is an older branch. So I'm actually just going to cut just a portion of that off so that it's not interfering with this branch over here yet. So we'll see what happens over the summer when it grows out more. So we have in this area, we have some smaller branches that are coming down, we have some branches that are going up, and we have this branch over this way. So again, I just want to clean that up. So because they're smaller branches, they're not main, it's not the leader. The leader would be this back here that goes up. These would just be like main branches, I guess would be the best way to explain it. And these little side branches are basically what we're going to prune off. So I'm going to come up here, and this one you can see that it's crossing over on these other sides. So I'm going to cut that one off. And this one is hanging down and crossing over as well. And we're going to go ahead and cut that off as well. So that opens that up. And then these that are pointing straight up towards this other branch, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to cut them towards the bottom. So it's a little hard to see. So there's two of them, so I'm just going to cut them. And then this one, this small one, is infringing on this other branch. So I'm going to cut that off. And then behind here, we have two small ones that are growing back. And I don't want that, so I'm going to cut these off as well. And right above that, we have this little one that's in the way. So I'm not trying to do a, prune it back significantly. I just want to make sure that branches are not crossing, so that when there are leaves and there's wind, there's not a lot of moving, because what can happen is if there's a lot of rubbing on the branches, the buds for the fruit will then fall off. And also, since it's a young tree, I'm kind of training the shape that I want. So here's another branch that this one is coming towards this other branch, and they are skinny little branches. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back towards its main branch and cut it off there, and that just opens it up. So there's less problem with it rubbing. So, and up here you can see the same thing, that we have this branch crossing over into on this side. I'm trying to get a good shot of that. So these two are crossing, and this one seems to be a little steadier than this one. I don't know which one would be necessarily better to cut, but so it's in that case you kind of pick one. So I'm going to pick that one, and that opens that up. And then here we have this one that's growing off the top. It's just growing straight up, but it doesn't have a nice arch, and it's and it is in the way of this other one. So actually we're gonna cut this one that's up and this one. So I'm gonna go to the main branch, make a cut, go to again the main branch and make a cut, move that out of the way. So that opens that area up. So moving right along here, so I'm just kind of looking at how the tree is growing, what its natural little path is. And on this one, this is a newer branch, and it has these bulbous growths. This could be a fungus. I'm not really sure if it is or not. I do not have this on any of my other pomegranate trees, so I'm just going to watch it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off these two side branches because they're side branching towards the back. And then I'm going to cut this one as well because it was more likely to cross. So already that opens up a good bit of the branches without having to do a severe prune or cut. So I'm not trying to cut for production. That will be once it's planted in the ground. So over to this next area, this one is crossing out. This is a kind of the end of a branch, so it's not a side branch. So I want to cut more of the side branches than I do just the main branches. So I'm going to cut here, and this one also crosses over just on the opposite side. So I'm actually going to cut both of those off. Okay, so going up, this is the main branch, and then we have two side branches again, and the side branches are really long on this. So I'm actually gonna, there's a little bud section, so I don't have to cut it all the way down. So I left a little bit on either side, and I kept the long branch. So we'll see how that grows. All right, so in the other section here, so this cut is probably going to be just cosmetic. I don't like how this is grown down, and it's just grown down off of this little piece right here. So I am going to just cut that off. And then this branch, this is a branch that grew last year, and it grew up and it grew in between the main branches. I'm actually going to take this one off at the main branch here. Let's see that. Just going to take that off, and that opens up a bunch of space. And then this branch here, you can see that it curves over. So the branch is actually growing out this way. This branch curves over and actually hits another branch. So I'm going to take off this curved one as well. Okay. So already it looks much neater. Whoops, sorry. Already it looks much neater than it did. I'm looking at this branch here because of the way it curves under, comes up, grows through. Because I'm concentrating on the shape of the tree, that will take out a lot of growth. However, it'll be worse off if I don't do it now. So I'm actually going to take off this branch. Okay. And if you can see this one over here, it crosses over or on top of another, and it's right in between two other pieces. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to cut that off so that's open. So I think that looks much neater and healthier than it did before. These two are also crossing, so what I'll do is I'll take off that branch. So that has opened up just about every branch on the pomegranate. And then since everything hasn't bushed out, what will happen is the tree will focus on the buds that are out, and it'll put out new growth, of course. And we'll do this again in the spring, next spring or winter. For us, it's still winter, even though we don't have any snow. So January is probably a better month to do the pruning for the pomegranate. But this year it's been colder, so I've been able to get away with pruning later in the year. So that's pruning a potted white pomegranate tree. And thanks for watching Desert Gardening in the Desert.